Welcome to another video on the ESP microprocessor family and ESPHome. The goal is in this video to demonstrate how you can use the combination of an ESP microprocessor and ESPHome to not only manipulate one servo but physically connect two or potentially more servos to your ESP microprocessor, and how the software in ESPHome needs to be coded so that you can put actions on your servos. In the first video, I very granularly showed you how to get to the basics, how to wire up one servo to an ESP microprocessor, how to install ESPHome on your system, and get your first servo actions. So I'm not going to repeat this. If you are unfamiliar, please take a look at the first video that I created. So in this video, we are going to connect two videos to the microprocessor and create actions so that both servos function at the same time. This is needed for my task because I'm going to use an ESP and ESPHome to open and close the face shield of an Iron Man mask that I'm building. So as with in the first video, I connected via USB cable an ESP to my computer. I have ESPHome running locally in the background, so I'm not using Home Assistant at the moment. And I've already configured and programmed my microprocessors, so I'll just walk you through the programming that I've done. But before doing that, let's take a look at the wiring. This is again pretty straightforward, and I'm eliminating the need of an external 5-volt power source, but you can obviously change it to your liking. So the ESP is getting the power from the computer via USB cable, or later on via a battery. So we're grabbing 5-volt and ground from the ESP and putting it in the breadboard, and we'll connect the servo's power and ground with that. For servo 1, it will be connected to pin D1 of the ESP, and servo 2 will then be connected to the pin D2 of the ESP. Important to note for later on for the source code, so that you know which servo is taking which action. So on the dashboard of ESPHome, we will look into the new online servo, which is called Two Servos. So we'll go on edit so that we can see the source code. So what you have to obviously do and change to your liking is give your ESPHome microprocessor running a name and a friendly name. Then you have to define what board it is running. In my case, it's set, it's an ESP8266 microprocessor, and as a board it's a VMOS D1 Mini. We'll skip the other parts as they're not relevant at the moment. So let's look at output. In the previous video, where we only had one servo connected, that was just the section of output and one servo defined. So now we're using two servos here, so you have to put both here under output. So I have one running, and that's connected to the pin D1, and I have another one connected to the pin D2. And that's all you need to do. If you have more than just copy and paste as many instances of these 4 lines under output and define on what pin you have your message cable of your servo connected to. Then in the servo section, we do define the servos and give them name. So we have one that is called servo write. As an output, it is using the PWM output write as an identifier. It has an auto detach time of 5 seconds, which means 5 seconds after the action was sent to the servo, he will power off the servo. And the transition length is set to 0 seconds, which means full speed. And then, absolutely similar to that, the second servo that I gave the unique identifier servo left, it's also connected to an output that is defined up here, and same auto detach time and transition length. Here in the next section we again have to define the scripts, so the actions that the servos are doing. As I said, in my use case, it's going to be opening and closing the face shield of an Iron Man mask. So I will have one script with the unique identifier open script. And if this open script is triggered, then I'm writing an information to a servo. I'm sending it to the servo with the unique identifier servo write, and I will set the level of this servo to be -100%. And right after that, I'm going to do another action, another servo write to the servo with the unique identifier servo left, and this one will go to level 100. This is needed because they are sitting next to each other mirrored. So if one servo goes in one direction, then the other one needs to go in the opposite direction for them to do the same action. But you'll see that I think it's getting more visual when you see the servos in action. So then there's a second script with the unique identifier close script, and here the same. We're sending one command to one and the other command to the other servo. And also very similar to the things that we did in the first video, we're going to define two buttons, one representing the action open script and one representing the action close script. Yeah, then we need the web server to be present, and then we can just, as we've done it so many times in the first video, save our code, install it onto the microprocessor, again in this case connected via cable to this machine. And once it's started, we can stop this output, close the source code here, and go to visit for our instance of the ESP controller here. And here we have the web browser responding, so the web browser that is running on the ESP. Clicking the close or open action will then result in the movement of the servos that we programmed and were hoping for. I hope you liked the video and it was educative for you. If it was, and if you did, please leave a like and a subscription. That's appreciated. Thanks a lot.